Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo doo.
Evening, gang!
Welcome to the Welch Review. We're your hosts, Sam and Steph, and today we're talking about what?
Today we're talking about the new, the first iteration in what seems to be like a trilogy for Netflix. It's called Fear Street 1994, so this is the first entry in it. And in this you have Maya Hawke in a brief cameo as Heather at the beginning of the movie. She was in the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and she really broke out in Stranger Things Season 2. She played Robin, the Scoops Ahoy employee who worked with Steve.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. She is also Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's daughter. So,
Okay.
like, her parents are well within the business.
Yeah.
Then you have David W. Thompson as Ryan Torres, again, someone who's in the beginning of the film. He was in movies such as Win-Win with Paul Giamatti and Bobby Cannavale, and Green Room with Patrick Stewart, and he also had small roles in The Boys and in Gotham. So he's quite a well-versed dude. You also have Kiana Madeira as Dina, and this seems to be like her biggest thing. She is in the next two sequels, Fear Street 1978 and Fear Street 1666. She was also in The Flash for an episode and was in a TV show called Trinkets. You have Benjamin Flores Jr., who plays Josh. He was in the Netflix film Rim of the World, where kids fought aliens. He was in Happy Feet 2, or did a voice in Happy Feet 2. He was in the Ride Along with Kevin Hart, the most recent Showtime limited series Your Honor, and he is also in Fear Street 2 and 3. Then you have Julia Raywald as Kate, and this is her first really big thing, right? So she's going to be in the next two Fear Streets as well. But before that, she was in something called Mukbang Massa Rap, which I'm not sure what exactly that is. But yeah, quite the name, memorable. Then you have Fred Hetchinger as Simon, and he was in The Woman in the Window, which was a thriller that recently just dropped on Netflix. The author of that book faked having cancer, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yet Netflix bought the book, and made it a movie. Then he was also in the movie News of the World with Tom Hanks, and the Bo Burnham, his directorial debut, 8th grade. Then you have Ashley Zuckerman. He's actually a dude, not a lady.
Okay.
He plays Sheriff Nick Good. And he was in the show Manhattan, Succession on HBO, and in a indie horror film called Wind, Demons of the West, which looks pretty interesting. Then you have Olivia Scott Welch. Sorry, no relation, but it'd be cool if it ended up that way. As Samantha. She was in the film Shithouse, the show Modern Family, and I feel like it's either a Netflix show or movie, but it's called Unbelievable. Then you have Elizabeth Scopel as Sarah Fryer, who plays the witch, who they keep talking about. And her biggest thing is this, Fear Street Part 2 and Fear Street 3. When they came out, she was also in FBI Most Wanted, the TV show. And then you have Jeremy Ford as Peter, and he's in the Apple remake of Mosquito Coast with Justin Theroux, and he'll be in Fear Street 3.
Yeah.
And then this was based on a story by Kyle Killen. Kyle Killen wrote the film The Beaver with Mel Gibson, and Scenic Route with Josh Duhamel. The screenplay itself was written by Phil Gazialde. He wrote Honeymoon, and he wrote the next two Fear Streets, 2 and 3. And then it was also written by Lee Janiak, who also wrote this film Honeymoon and Fear Street 2 and 3, and she also acts as a director. And she directed Honeymoon, and she directed the Fear Street trilogy, so this one and then the next two that come out.
Yep.
And she also did some episodes of the show Outcast and Scream, the TV show on MTV.
Okay.
And this trilogy of movies of Fear Street is based on the books of R.L. Stein, who wrote Goosebumps.
Okay.
And that's who's who, where they're from, and what you might see them in.
So for our scarier take of the Goosebumps in Fear Street 1, a little background before we get into it. Basically, you have two towns. You have Sunnyvale and Shadyville. Or Shadyside, Sunnyvale and Shadyside. Yeah. So Sunnyvale is like where all of the rich, preppy kids live, and Shadyside is the murderer capital of America. So basically, like every 10, 20 years, there's some like crazy murders that go down there, and people who seem completely normal just kind of snap, and they become these crazy murderers. And basically, there's like a mythos in the town that there's like a witch who had lived in the town before it split into these two separate towns. Shadyside and Sunnyvale used to be one town, then they split after Sarah Frere. So Sarah Frere, she was killed as a witch, but she chopped off her own hand to complete a sacrifice so that she could kind of like live on for forever and keep her grip on the land. Now our show opens up with one such crazy murder who's basically like this teenage kid in a skeleton mask, and he murders a lady inside of a mall. He murders actually a couple of people inside of said mall. But then he gets shot in the face, so that's all good. Yeah. It wasn't Nick Good who shoots him in the face. It was a different cop, right?
Different cop.
Different cop. Anyways, he gets shot in the face. He's dead. No big deal. Well, kind of a big deal. Everybody's sad, right? Like, you can't just... Murderers are sad, right? There's a whole bunch of dead people, not the murderer himself, right? I guess some people were sad. They were like, hey, look at this kid. He was so upset with life that he snapped. And that's how crappy living here in Shadyville is. Turns out that's not what happened. Anyways, jump to the future. We got our main cast. Basically all of them are in marching band to some extent.
So you got Dina, Kate, Simon, who are all
okay,
from
yeah.
Shadyside.
So Simon is like the town mascot, kind of. He's a witch for the high school, right?
The football team
mascot. And then the other two are just straight up in marching band. So they go to this vigil essentially over in Sunnyvale for the people who were massacred, because some of them were from Shadyside and some of them were from Sunnyvale. And the Sunnyvale people basically are like picking fights, right? They're like, oh, why do we have to hold this whole event for these trashy Shadyville people? Like, they're just murderers. Why do we have to have them here? So that starts a whole big fight. And then afterwards, this car is chasing their bus as they're leaving, and they're throwing crap at the bus. So our main cast is like, hey, we ain't gonna take this crap. So they grab like the jug of like Gatorade that you normally have at sports events, and they throw it at the back of the bus, and it hits the car. So, a little background on this car. It has two important people. One of them is an a-hole, and he's on the football team. Peter. His name's Peter. He isn't really important in this film. But then there's another girl whose name I don't remember. Sam. Oh, she's named after me. All right, so Sam is important. She is our main character's like #1 love interest. And is it Kate who's the main character?
No, Kate's the friend. Dina is the main character.
Dina is the main character. So Dina and Sam had a thing. It went south. Sam moved to Sunnyvale, and it just went all downhill. And now she's seeing boys, and not just boys, but a boy who sucks. So anyways, they threw this thing at the car. Then that car swerves off, hits a tree. Everybody gets out to see it. And while they're down there, Sam has a vision of Sarah Frere, the murderer. And then things start to get weird. Right. Nobody dies from that car crash. People go to the hospital. They wind up being okay. But then the skull mask kid, right, who had just doing murders, Ryan Torres, who had just been doing all the murders in the mall and had been shot in the face, is showing up like stalking Kate and I'm really bad at
Dina.
Kate and Dina, and who's the guy who's playing the witch?
Simon.
It's Simon.
And her brother Josh.
And Josh.
Dina's brother Josh.
Yeah. So he's stalking these guys, and so Dina's like, yo, what the hell? tell your boyfriend, Sam, to get the hell away from my friends, because she's just like, it must be this guy, he's a jerk, right? There's, that kid got shot in the face, he ain't back. It's just some jerk from Sunnyvale wearing a mask. So he's stalking them. Dina goes to see Sam, and she's like, yo, what the hell? Keep your boyfriend away from here. And then Sam's like, my boyfriend's been right here the whole time. And then his throat gets slit. And you find out that, hey, that kid who got shot in the face is magically still alive. And then eventually they pull off his mask and there's a hole in his face. And they're like, that's not how physics works. That guy should be dead. So they start running away from this bad guy. And then there's new bad guys who spring up that have been dead for like 30 years. And they're all murderers from Shady Side, right? They're all these murderers that have been dead for years and years, and they find out essentially that this is connected to the witch. That they have to figure out some way to appease the witch to get her to stop trying to murder them, specifically Sam. A whole bunch of stuff goes down. People die. They plant traps for these monsters. They don't really work. I don't know. It's pretty good.
Some Scooby-Doo antics.
Some Scooby-Doo antics. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the plot without giving away too much. And again, this is tied into a couple of sequels that are coming out pretty quick. So, the plot's going to develop quite a bit. But
absolutely. It's going to be expanded and, have a nice tight ending, hopefully.
Other Mr. Welch, what do we got? You got any ideas for standout actors?
Standout things, I guess it was her character, Dina Keanu Madeira plays a really angsty, overly emotional character, which makes sense because her character's going through a breakup, but
and her life kind of sucks.
And I guess her life kind of sucks. Her whole perspective and outlook is depressing.
Yeah.
This. How they paint Shady Side to be, which is I find interesting because her brother doesn't really seem to have that whole mentality. Granted he's not going through a breakup, but I thought the brother stood out more as a positive character. And by positive character I mean I thought he was actually doing good acting. I liked him.
Okay.
He was likable. I felt whatever was going on in the scenes, he handled it well and addressed it, in the right amount of emotion, where I thought that Keanu Madeira was I don't know, just seemed extra. Everything seemed extra.
I mean, I guess that's kind of true, but everything that's happening to them is kind of extra. They're being hunted by murderers that have been dead for years or a couple of days. But yeah, it's kind of an extra sort of event. They're being stalked. She's kind of in this position where she needs to take care of her brother, the person who she loves, and her best friends all at the same time.
I think her friends are doing fine though. They're drug dealers. They're making money.
They're doing okay, yeah, but they're in this whole crappy situation with her, right? It's not just her, and she has a lot of people who she cares about. It's a very high stress situation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And she didn't grow up with a silver spoon in her mouth, you know what I mean? She doesn't have a mother. I don't know, did they say that she ran off, or did she die, or?
It didn't specify. Their dad works all the time, so he's not there. So you're right.
He works all the time and he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas, so basically, the older sister is basically the parent. And the younger brother is still, he's a kid, and he kind of hides away from the world. So, I don't know. I think that it makes sense for her to be dramatic, but I can understand not liking that as well.
And when you're painting the larger picture of her, right? It makes sense. I just felt in some scenes where it didn't call for her to and I guess that stuff's always with you, but. I don't know. There were moments it just didn't feel necessary. It's from one to Nick Cage, you're being Nick Cage more times than you need to.
Yeah.
And it's the only person who can get away with that is Nick Cage himself.
Nick Cage can't get away with it.
In some instances he can, but this isn't about him. I feel like she was going to Nick Cage in moments that didn't require Nick Caginess. Otherwise, I thought Simon, so Fred Hetchinger.
Yeah, Simon was great.
He was great, especially the scene where like the cops are interviewing him about what happened in the car. Like that was great.
He refuses to talk.
It was nice seeing, Olivia Scott Welch, so Sam, and Keanu Madeira and Dina, right? Those characters, Dina and Sam, their relationship from where it starts to where it goes, like that ride along with like watching the horror, like in a weird way, this is a love story.
It is a love story.
You know?
Yeah, it's definitionally a love story. Because, I mean, and in fact, it's kind of more stereotypically a love story, but it's just more realistic. Because, like, if you look at Sleeping Beauty,
yeah.
And I know that they've made a live action one, but the live action version should be like a horror movie. Like an evil witch captured a princess and then, like, is having a dragon murder a whole bunch of people.
The witch is the dragon.
Oh, the witch is the dragon. Sorry, it's been a minute. She's got, like, crazy thorns going everywhere. Like, it's not a good time.
No.
So, like, you know, actual, like, princess in a tower stuff, kind of horrifying. If you were actually in that situation, I'd be a crappy prince. I'd be like, nah, man, there's other people out there. I'm good.
So then I think, like, what you're touching on is a couple things, right? Like, one, Sleeping Beauty, obviously that stuff has been made by Disney primarily,
Yeah.
and you mentioned it when watching this. It seems like Netflix has become like a Disney Channel in a way because they're cherry picking actors from various.
Oh yeah, we talked
like,
about that before. Yeah, like, you know how the Disney Channel has like all of the Disney kids and they all like are in every single Disney thing ever. Their Netflix does that except with Disney people, not Disney people, except with their own people.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're in this show and you're from that show and now you're together in this
Yeah,
one.
like a whole bunch of the Stranger Things cast is in these films, which is very enjoyable because those are all good actors and actresses. So yeah, no, it's that's true. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is when you said it's a love story.
Well, like what you're talking about, I know I cut you off, but like what I was getting at was like the director, right, Lee Janak or Janik. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. It seems like she's kind of touching on this. Love is scary and horrifying, so it's like not that that's like.
I guess that's true.
What R.L. Stein was going for when he wrote this, like as a book for teens, but like. Yeah, you know, a lot of the focus when you're that age is like a girlfriend or boyfriend.
Yeah.
You know, so like she's amping up and making real. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I guess all that I had for that was that, you know, a lot of the things in love stories are not easy to overcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, at least in the old-fashioned sense. Not old-fashioned sense, but like the old-fashioned stories.
Yeah.
You know, fighting a dragon is terrifying. In this instance, instead of having to fight a dragon to save a woman, you have to fight like 5 murderers and the witch. And that's terrifying. And they look at it from a more real perspective than Disney does. You know, they're just normal people and their enemies are immortal murderers.
Immortal murder.
So they have a little bit of a harder role to go down than Prince Charming did. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's a very well done film. I think that you kind of snagged the best character, at least in my opinion.
The brother?
No, the other one. Simon.
Oh, Simon?
Yeah,
okay.
I really like Simon a lot. He's funny. He's kind of stupid. But he's a brave idiot. You know what I mean? He's a very brave idiot. And he's fun to watch on screen. So, yeah, I don't know. The movie has a lot of good stuff. All of the acting is pretty well done, in my opinion, but I just like watching Simon's character. He's funny.
No, I agree. I think when he's on, he steals the show. One person, though, when they're on camera, I just think they're boring, is Ashley Zuckerman as Sheriff Nick Good.
Oh, yeah, he sucks.
He's useless.
He's very bland, and spoilers, the next film, he's kind of disgusting.
We'll
talk about that.
But like, I feel like they overhype him. Like, oh, he's a good, like, you know, like, he's his own hype man in the town, like...
He's the small town cop,
yeah.
right? Like, he is the quintessential small town cop, and, like, he's small town royalty. So, like, if you're into that, cool, but shady side, don't give two damns about your small town royalties. I don't know, I think something that the movie does that's fun, and at least for me, is that it plays a lot on, like, economic strife between two different communities, right? Like, for example, you got, like, a Springfield and a Long Meadow, or Holyoke and a Hadley, or Northampton or something, right? You know, and it maybe not crazy in depth, right? But it looks at the different economic and like social situations of groups on both sides of the playing field, and like nothing does that in movies. Like there are very few movies that do that and play up those divisions, right, in society for like any real purpose besides like The Outsiders.
That's like
it.
The only one I can think of.
Yeah, so it's a trope that's really good.
Ooh, The Goonies, but like on a much lower level.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah.
Much lower level.
So it's something that movies don't do a lot, and it's really, really good, and it's really, really relevant to life just in general. And it kind of always has been, right? But nobody does it. So I like that, and I think that we should have more of it in movies. First Fear Street, great film. Check it out. Watch it.
If you haven't, hop on that bandwagon, or if you're trying to treat yourself, like some cats I know, wait till all three are out, then binge it all in a row.
Who's doing that?
Rob.
Rob's a cool guy.
Rob's doing that. Rob's the man.
Rob is the man. Rob, we love you. Alright, this has been the Welch Review. We'll be coming back at you with Fear Street 2 pretty soon.